Before watching this video, make sure to check out my review of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 first. Productions. In February of 1994, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out to rave reviews. But in a way it felt incomplete. There were only 6 stages and no real ending. As it turns out, there were a few reasons for that. The game was originally supposed to be twice as long, but due to deadlines, they had to cut it in half. What kind of deadline? Believe it or not, but Sega had spent over 2 billion yen on an upcoming McDonald's promotion. That's hilarious. I could make all kinds of fast food puns. To be fair, it also turned out that the game would be too large for a regular Mega Drive cartridge. The second batch of levels were released as Sonic and Knuckles in October that same year. To give you the full experience as intended, the developers invented something called lock-on technology. Basically, it had a slot on top that allowed the player to connect other Mega Drive games. Putting Sonic 1 on top would give you Blue Sphere, which is a seemingly endless trove of special stages. Sonic 2 gives you Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. By connecting it with Sonic 3, you would get the hilariously titled Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This gives you all levels from Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles mushed together as one grand and epic adventure. As with the third game, I played the follow-up a little bit later, probably around early 1996. My dad rented it from the local video store and I distinctly remember that they didn't have Sonic 3 that day, so I never got to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles in its heyday. I liked it, but couldn't get very far. Loved that logo though. So cool. Years later, I finally beat it on the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the PS2. In this video, I'll cover everything that this cartridge has to offer. I'll start with just Sonic and Knuckles and then talk about the lock-on content. This will be fun. Let's get right into it.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Sonic and Knuckles looks exactly like Sonic 3, which makes sense as it's pretty much the same game. The title screen shows the Death Egg crashing onto the floating island with 2 giant 3D models of the main characters in the foreground. Looking sharp there. The menu is bare bones though. No multiplayer, no level select screen, no saving. Wait, what? Why is there no saving option? That was one of the best parts of the third game. Makes no sense to remove this brilliant feature. Anyway, so you have the option to play as either Sonic or Knuckles. Duh. Where's my buddy Tails? Was he even invited? Well, the addition of Knuckles makes up for it. He was playable in the competition mode of number 3, but there he played exactly like Sonic. Here he's got new moves. By pressing jump mid-air, he glides. Gliding into a wall allows you to climb up most surfaces. He can also use his fists to break certain walls or blocks. This is a brand new moveset that allows you to get to places Sonic can't reach. The only downside is that Knuckles can't jump as high as Sonic, which makes some parts harder. Similar to Tails in the third game, the shields don't grant him special moves either, but protect him from elemental threats. Bonus and special stages work in the same way as before, but the gumball minigame has been replaced with a pair of games. First, the slot machine. This is what you get when you throw Casino Night Zone and the special stages from Sonic 1 into a blender. Try to maneuver into the middle and gamble. As I've told you before kids, gambling is way cool. I can't stand this. It's based on luck and the controls aren't great. The glowing sphere stages are more fun. An energy field rises from the bottom and you have to use the spheres to escape. Along the way you'll find items, bumpers and flippers. Probably my favorite bonus round of this saga. There's a new set of blue sphere levels, but that's not all. Yellow balls make you shoot like a bullet, which can be cool but also crush your dreams. Of course you turn into Super Sonic or Super Knuckles after collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds. I think we've handled the basics. Let's check out the levels. Since Knuckles' quest takes place after Sonic's, I'll cover him later. His name is Sonic and he has one goal. Stop Dr. Ivo Robotnik at all costs. His journey begins, or rather continues, in Mushroom Hill Zone. As is typical for this series, it takes place in a setting dominated by the color green. This time you're in a forest full of bouncy mushrooms. In usual Sonic fashion, there's lots of enemies and obstacles in your way, but this can be a speedy stage depending on the route you take. It's worth exploring considering there are a total of 9 giant rings in both acts, 2 of which can only be reached by Knuckles. That means you could theoretically become Super Sonic pretty much at the very beginning. That is, if you can actually beat all of them on the first try. Back to the obstacles and gimmicks. You've got cranes with handles you can grab onto. Press down, down, down to make it go up. Kinda monotonous at times. Then you get caught in these rope thingies which you can only escape by using the spin dash. Swinging on these bars and letting go at the exact right moment can be tricky. The mini-boss is an axe-wielding robot that's just a pushover, beaten in no time. Act 2 starts with Knuckles being a douche. But you know the saying, same prick, different day. After seeing him plummet during the launch of the Death Egg so many times, I hoped he'd be gone a little while longer. For some reason, the season has changed to autumn. The second half feels more linear and occasionally has you hanging from slowly descending mushrooms. The Clockoids are a bit irritating as their mighty blows push you back. The colors of the level keep changing as you move along, which is an artistic touch. Not as drastic as in Angel Island Zone, but smoother. At the end you destroy the X-Scrambler's antenna and the world gets green again. Thus Robotnik shows up and a chase sequence ensues. This fight is simple and over very quickly, yet unique and fun. Although Mushroom Hill Zone has some annoying aspects like those nasty dragonflies, this is such a fantastic stage brimming with creativity. The backgrounds are some of my favorite, and in all honesty, this is the best stage of Sonic & Knuckles for me. Very impressive start to the game. An airship comes flying by and Sonic jumps onto it. That sound is so awful. Disturbingly awful. The next level, called Flying Battery Zone, takes place on said airship. Originally it was supposed to take place after Carnival Night Zone, but here we are. There aren't too many alternate routes, which makes this a pretty linear endeavor. Fine by me. In a way, it feels like they smushed together Wing Fortress Zone and Metropolis Zone from Sonic 2 and added some new mechanics. Sonic's climbing animation on the hangars seemed choppy. Landmines are scattered about and they explode after they've been touched. Sometimes iron balls and enemies are pulled towards the magnetic ceiling. Just wait until that happens and speed past. Some of the spikes can be pushed, which isn't too obvious. Occasionally you're outside, swinging between poles with propellers, which is a fun mechanic. It keeps you gripping your controller for dear life. So apparently the first act doesn't have a boss. Oh shit! The capsule is pissed. It doesn't matter because this fight is laughably simple. Make it smash its own head and get out of the way. You'd think it'd only fall for it once, but that's video game logic for you. Act 2 at first seems like more of the same. I never liked this part because it just has you waiting around in agony. Traumatized by Chemical Plant Zone, your first instinct might be to avoid this thing, but don't be afraid. Just let it happen. That sounds wrong. I wish there were more of these things, whatever they're called. Even the boss is ripped straight out of Wing Fortress, but less dangerous. All you have to do is avoid the laser. Not even Super Sonic can destroy it. Another boring snooze fest. Thankfully, that's not the real fight, but it doesn't get much harder. After an escape from a rising platform similar to Marble Garden Zone, you reunite with Dr. Mustachius. Wait for Robotnik to swing up, otherwise he'll flame your ass. I know Flying Battery Zone is a popular stage, but it never clicked with me. It's not bad or anything, it's just that chunks of it feel recycled to me and the settings bland. I don't know, the level layout, mechanics and enemies just don't excite me, which is why it's mid-tier for me. Sandopolis Zone gave me nightmares as a kid. Back then I was never able to beat it, and to this day the memory haunts me. Let's see if anything has changed for me. You get a front row seat as I confront my inner demons. First off, I love the Egyptian themed setting. Even before the Egypt levels in the original Tomb Raider, I was intrigued by it. You'll encounter all kinds of rocks. Some can be pushed, others destroyed, and a few are even alive. Sorcery! Oh god, I did not miss these sandworms. Or quicksand for that matter, which is like the oil in Oil Ocean Zone, just more dry and unpleasant.
And it gets everywhere.
Even though you basically just press the jump button once at these grappling ropes, it's fun to swing around carefree. Even cooler when you make your way down along the wall. Now how does this work exactly? The loop-de-loops are unique because you roll through them twice. At the end, a pyramid emerges from the ground and a stone guardian tries to crush you. Slowly. Jump attacks are useless, but it shouldn't take long to figure out that you have to lure him towards the quicksand. I just wish it wasn't at such a snail's pace. I could literally drown in a pool of quicksand faster than it takes for this shit. But Act 1 is pretty fun, I gotta say. Great platforming, interesting setting, and only mildly annoying enemies. I'm looking at you, Scorp. Act 2, however... oh boy.
My failures as a child. I see them so clearly in front of me.
It takes place inside of the pyramid with a twist. It starts in the dark, but you soon find a light switch. As time progresses, the stage gradually gets darker. As if that wasn't creepy enough, you release freaking ghosts by landing on this capsule. At first, it's just one little fella watching over you.
Is he friendly?
Then his buddy joins him and they're a bit larger. Then they're 3 and have grown horns. But they still don't really do anything except make me nervous as hell. Oh god! How do I get rid of this blasted curse? All you can do is jump at the light switch, forge ahead, and hope to find another one soon. It's the most stressful shit in classic Sonic. There's not even a competition. But wait, there's more. This act is full of moments that torment me on a mortal level. First, there's a sand slide that loops infinitely until you find the correct way. What a sadistic slide. I remember getting stuck here at first. The black switches need to be pushed, but they are timed, which adds to the problem. The absolute worst part has rising sand. Timing is pretty tight at some points and I died a bunch. Often when I finally get to the boss, time is almost running out. Just like when I played it the first time. As a kid, I never beat this boss. I always got a time over. Plus, I think the fight itself was too brutal for me and I probably didn't have many lives left. The trick is to jump at the head first and then hit Robotnik as soon as he is exposed. I'll make it official. Sandopolis Act 2 is my most hated part in any of the classic Mega Drive/Mega CD games. I'd rather play Wacky Workbench. Sure, it kind of feels awesome when you finally beat it, but the stress factor is too high and as a kid I was legit scared of the ghosts. I might not be completely objective on this one, but you can't force enjoyment.
Everything from here on out I never saw until the PS2 era.
Lava Reef Zone takes place inside a volcano. The floor is always breaking away, raising the risk of falling into lava. And if it doesn't break away by you stepping on it, some drill will make sure it happens anyway. The flame shield is a godsend in this stage. Some walls can be broken with the spin dash, others need to be opened with a button. The so-called transport lets you travel up and down by once again using the spin dash. The speedy parts are few and far between. For the most part, you carefully navigate through the trap-filled tunnels. Progression is slow due to pain lurking around every corner. There are even toxic clouds that trap you and sap your rings. The mini-boss is one of the better ones in my opinion. First, 2 tentacles shoot projectiles at you, and then a giant hand wants to squash you. I just wish the fight itself was a little faster. In Act 2, the lava cools down, which gives the level a completely different look with more blue tones. They turned the color wheel on its head. The rotating rods are pretty cool and jumping at the right time feels rewarding. It's even more slow going, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. Makes moments like these feel special. I always appreciate when they attempt the illusion of depth, like with these spiky balls disappearing behind the columns. As you move on, the background changes and it's gorgeous. Oh, check this out, the death egg. Knuckles needs to ruin the moment, of course. Thus, another boss fight is upon you. First, an auto-scrolling part that thankfully is zippy compared to Bridge Zone or Sky Chase Zone. Then you have to make Robotnik destroy himself with his own mines. I don't care for this one either, because all you do is jump across platforms and wait. With the flame shield, it's even more redundant.
Oh man, I'm usually more positive when I talk about classic Sonic, but I'm not a cheerleader for Lava Reef either.
The second act is fine and aesthetically pleasing, but the first one irritates me quite a bit. It's not as aggravating as Sandopolis Act 2, don't get me wrong. It's just that I personally find that they overdid it with a sheer amount of things that hurt you. People tend to complain about Marble Zone for its slow gameplay, but for me, this one tops it in that department. In a seamless transition, we get to Hidden Palace Zone, not to be confused with Hidden Palace Zone. This is by far the shortest stage in the game and only has one act. After all that slow platforming, it's freeing to be bounced around by springs again. These red orbs are warp points. After only half a minute, you finally face the misguided Echidna. Just jump at him a few times and that's it. Short, but I love it. Kinda reminds me a bit of the fight against Axel Gear in Rocket Knight Adventures. Suddenly, things explode and Robotnik steals the Master Emerald. Knuckles tries in vain to stop him. Realizing that he has been betrayed, he leads Sonic to the next stage. It's amazing to me how well they tell this story without a single word. Although Hidden Palace is over before you know it, it's kind of a highlight due to the story picking up. Sky Sanctuary Zone is another single act. Sonic and Knuckles are above the clouds and the Death Egg rises to the sky. Alright Knuckles, you're obviously tired, let me handle this. This stage is filled with egg robos. The spinning platforms are pure joy, even if they'd make me dizzy in real life. Just like these bouncy clouds. It doesn't take long before you meet the first mini-boss. Let me introduce Mecha Sonic Mark II. Not Silver Sonic, not Metal Sonic, but Mecha Sonic new and improved with the latest anti-hedgehog firmware patch. He's in the Egg Wrecker, which is a nice callback to the first boss in the first game. Quick fight. The second time he's in the Egg Bouncer from Metropolis Zone. Just as annoying as before, albeit easier. As you ascend, you face him for the last time. This fight is like the one from Death Egg Sonic 2, but he's a little less predictable, which means a smidge of challenge. This is quite a large and vertical stage, which makes falling down a bit frustrating and time consuming. Mostly it's a jolly good time though, and you can't beat those visuals. As the floor crumbles beneath him, Sonic runs off a ramp and jumps onto the Death Egg. The final level is appropriately called Death Egg Zone, not to be confused with Death Egg Zone. In contrast to its older brother that only had 2 boss fights and nothing else, here you get 2 acts of awesomeness. Just look at that epic background. Finally, things get quicker, but there's still plenty of stellar platforming. It takes a crazy turn. What's going on? If there's one thing I could do without, it's this part right here. You don't do anything and it goes on for too long. Looks cool, but that's it. Let's make that 2. This conveyor belt is slow going as well. There are a few branching paths which add replay value. You want the Thunder Shield, as this place is filled with electrical traps. In this room the gravity pulls you to the right and you need to bump into 6 lights. The boss has 2 phases and in each you need to damage the red eye. First avoid the spheres, which explode into a bunch of arrows each time you hit the eye. Then 2 platforms circle around while it's shooting a laser. Usually this isn't the simplest fight, but with Super Sonic it's no problem. Act 2 takes place outside on the Death Egg, which is just a mind-blowing setting. Especially when you run upside down. Who came up with this madness? It's like Super Mario Galaxy, but 13 years earlier. It messes with your mind a bit, but you'll get used to it eventually. Early on you get to choose if you want to go left or right, which leads to 2 branching routes. This conveyor belt thingy is unique because it changes direction every time you jump. Like in Sonic 2 and 3, the final boss comes in different phases. First a draggy battle against the Death Ball. You need to reverse the gravity to make the spike tanks damage the ball. Apparently you can spin dash into the stuck tanks in the ceiling, which I never knew about. That's a quicker solution. But now it's time to beat the evil doctor for good. It won't be easy though. The same epic music from the Big Arms fight kicks in, and holy lord, that thing is gigantic. I thought the second game had a large final boss, but this takes the cake. The first part is harmless. Spin dash between the hands to damage the fingers quickly. Then comes the final phase. The floor crumbles as you escape from flames and a giant laser beam straight from the Master Emerald. Jump onto the nose to expose the emerald and then hit it. Watch out for that laser. The timing of your jump has to be absolutely perfect. It's nail-biting because you can't make any mistakes. If you die, all of your next attempts will be without a single ring. Eventually, the giant Eggman robo goes down and Robotnik snags the Master Emerald. Hit him a few times without falling into the vast emptiness of space and the fight is over.
If you don't have all of the Chaos Emeralds, the game would end now. Of course, I, the obsessive collector, got them way back in the beginning, so we get to play the real finale.
All in all, Death Egg Zone is outstandingly amazing and an absolute peak for me. The amount of creativity displayed here gives you a top-notch Sonic experience and probably the best final level in the classic lineup. Plus, that final boss set piece is tremendously intense and epic. Well, final boss isn't quite right. Just like in the ending sequence of Sonic 2, the Doomsday Zone has Super Sonic flying like the Man of Steel, but this time you actually get to control him. Doomsday has 3 phases. First, the overpowered hedgehog needs to navigate past incoming asteroids and missiles. Crashing into them doesn't hurt you, but slows you down and blocks you for a moment. That's bad because you lose rings by the second. Get those rings if you want to survive. In phase 2 you encounter the so-called final weapon. There's no way to damage it except using its own weapons against it. The missiles follow you, and by leading 8 of them towards the final weapon's head you reach the third and final phase. It's a bit awkward to get the missiles where you want them, especially with all the projectiles knocking you back. But now it's on. Smash into Robotnik while avoiding bombs and asteroids like the world depends on it. With the final blow, the final weapon explodes and Sonic plus the Master Emerald get rescued by Tails. Hey buddy, long time no see. The Doomsday Zone tries new ideas and the mechanics take a bit to get used to, but man is it great. In contrast to Sonic 3, we get a proper ending with the floating island, well, floating again, as our heroes return the Master Emerald to its resting place. As they fly back home with seagulls and dolphins following them, the credits roll. A satisfying ending to a long adventure. I'm not even mad the word Sonic is mirrored on the plane. But wait, what's that?
Yeah, that's right, Sonic's playthrough was only the first half. Knuckles' story takes place after Robotnik's defeat. Let's see where his path leads him.
Our favorite Echidna is chillin' in Mushroom Hill Zone when suddenly a bomb interrupts the peace and Egg Robo shows up. You'll soon notice that Knuckles can get to several areas Sonic can't reach. This way there are even more giant rings to find, and you can bet that I got all 7 Chaos Emeralds as fast as possible to get Super Knuckles. Yeah, that's a thing. In Act 2 you can simply walk past the lever Knuckles activated on Sonic's run, which leads to a completely different path. Again, the background changes seasons. The bosses are the same with the exception that Robotnik is replaced by Egg Robo. For some reason I had way more trouble this time. Flying Battery Zone is mostly the same. It's easier to get to the upper path here. Knuckles wasn't originally supposed to be playable in this stage. That's evident when you see the boss. They forgot to replace Robotnik with Egg Robo. In Sonic Origins, they finally fixed this mistake. Sandopolis Zone gives Knuckles some new paths by having him break through blocks in both acts. Because Sonic already released the ghosts on his visit inside the pyramid, they are present here from the very beginning. Oh joy! Sonic just had to somehow make it past the rising sand part. This time you need to push stones toward the black switches. I swear to god, this one jump is driving me nuts. Not impossible, but extremely hard. This playthrough had me pulling my hair out even more than with Sonic. Ooh, how I loathe you. Whereas Sonic falls into a hole on his way to Lava Reef Zone, Knuckles just keeps walking. Floating god. Therefore he starts at a different point of the level. In fact, everything's different. I would have liked more chapters to take this approach. This is a Knuckles stage by the books, having us use his climbing ability to the fullest. It's still aggravating, especially this part right here where I keep jumping into the spikes. I even got my first game over. Haven't seen that screen of shame in a long time. The game lets you continue from the last checkpoint. Nice touch. Act 2 also gives you a new experience as you break through these walls and enter the tubes. Second game over. Damn, I need to step up my game. This way as you climb some more. Eventually you get back to the spot where Knuckles threw a boulder at Sonic. The Death Egg is nowhere to be seen, which makes sense continuity wise. Man, this is more difficult than I remembered. Weirdly enough, there's no boss fight at the end. All in all, I prefer Act 1 with the Echidna and Act 2 with the Hedgehog. You leave Hidden Palace Zone as fast as you enter it. Push right, jump onto the warp point and leave within 12 seconds. Why is this even here? Believe it or not, but Sky Sanctuary Zone is the final level in Knuckles' storyline. No Death Egg, no Doomsday. This is it. You don't even get to play the level but have to confront the final boss right away after Egg Robo grabs you and drops you off. It's Mecha Sonic Mark II, but this time he means business. The first phase is pretty much like the third with Sonic. I know what to do. But then for the ultimate showdown, Mecha Sonic enters his super state with the power of the Master Emerald. Oh boy, this left me frazzled. He zooms around, shoots energy balls, rings and homes in on you. You have a split-second time window to hit him. I usually stay in the corner next to the Emerald and use the spin dash at the last second. It's not the best fight in the series, but gets the job done. And thus Mecha Sonic Mark II is reduced to scrap metal and destroyed for good. Sonic picks up Knuckles and the Master Emerald, and finally peace is restored. What an adventure.
Once again, it's time to talk about the music and sound. Well, just the music to be exact. There's nothing new to say about the sound.
As you know by now, Michael Jackson reportedly worked on music for Sonic 3 but was uncredited. Brad Boxer, a frequent collaborator of Jackson, however, was credited. His name is nowhere to be seen here. Indeed, Howard Drawson is credited as the only music composer. He had previously worked on both versions of Sonic Spinball and would later work on Sonic and the Black Knight. Sound-wise, we get the same greatness we'd expect from the mainline Sonic games up to this point. The signature Jackson sounds are sadly gone, but this soundtrack has nothing to hide. As with the first half of this story, both acts within a zone have different tracks, even if they sound alike.
But let's get some negatives out of the way. There are two songs that I can't stand.
First, the Jackpot bonus stage. Gets annoying very fast. The biggest sin, however, is the title track. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it brings me dread. My distaste for it grows to new heights every time I get invincibility or worse, turn into Super Sonic or Super Knuckles. Similar to Sonic 3, it's just a 5-second loop and it's so repetitive. Sonic 2 had its own supersonic theme. Why did they have to be so lazy here? It turns me off from playing a supersonic because it's almost not worth it if I have to turn the freaking volume off. Knuckles' amazing bare bones theme has been replaced as well. It's fine for what it is, but not in the same league. The credits give us a medley again, which is a nice callback. I like all of the level themes. Sandopolis is the one I like the least, but the bar is set high. As much as I dislike the stage itself, the music in Act 2 is menacing, moody, and kinda unsettling. Lava Reef Act 2 stands out as well, since it's noticeably calmer than the rest and even mysterious. Sky Sanctuary is epic, but overdoes it a bit for me personally. I can't listen to it for too long. There isn't nearly as much music in this one as in Sonic 3, which is why I won't be able to put a top 10 together, especially if I leave out the tracks that were already present in the third entry.
However, it's time to rank the best of the best. Here are my top 5 songs from Sonic & Knuckles.
Number 5. After the hellhole called Sandopolis, you're greeted with this upbeat masterpiece. It feels like a reward for finally making it here. Great and memorable melody with a beautiful arrangement. Number 4. I might not like this one as much as other people, but I can't deny that this track is bursting with energy. The driving beat, especially the drums, help push you past tons of obstacles on this dangerous battery. Number 3. Even though I prefer the version in Sonic 3, this one is a certified banger as well. It has a more serious tone and makes the boss encounters feel grander than they actually are. Number 2. Both songs for Death Egg are exceptional, but I prefer the slightly higher tone of Act 2. The instruments are pitched up a hair. That bass line is a perfect match for this setting. The fast-paced nature of this dark track gives it an incredible sense of urgency. Number 1. Unusual choice, I know, but hear me out. Since my childhood, I have loved this song so much because it's so different. It's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about this game. With a mix of jazzy and funky elements, this is an easy winner for me.
Let's wrap this up.
Sonic & Knuckles keeps many of the positive aspects Sonic 3 brought to the table. The visual presentation is equally stunning. It's one of the best looking games on the system and every level has so many incredible details. I like the story that's being told here. This, however, is my least favorite of the classic Sonic games and there are several reasons for that. As much as I love Mushroom Hill, Hidden Palace, Sky Sanctuary and Death Egg, I've never been a huge fan of levels 2 through 4. So after Mushroom Hill, it takes a nosedive and it's a while before I start enjoying the game to the fullest again. Sandopolis Act 2 sticks out like a sore thumb and as a kid it broke the game for me. Even today I detest it. The fact that they removed the save feature makes it even worse. I know the game is called Sonic & Knuckles, but why was Tails removed? On the other hand, playing a Sonic alone makes it feel more urgent for some reason, so I'm not totally against it. I prefer playing as Sonic over Knuckles by a long shot. Rarely are there major differences in gameplay. Don't get me wrong, I like playing as Knuckles, but I never get comfortable with this weak jump.
Whereas 5 of the 6 stages in the third game had water, here there's none at all. Weird. It's dry mode.
This is without a doubt the hardest of the main Mega Drive Sonic games and it's the one I play the least. Sonic 3 I can replay any time, but this one I tend to skip. The music is outstanding for the most part, but again I prefer what came before.
This all might sound very negative and yes, I am critical of the game. It's still a high quality title which is loved by many. In this case, it comes down to personal taste. I'm probably also too impatient sometimes.
In my ranking of the games I've reviewed so far, I'm placing it under Sonic CD. I don't really recommend playing the standalone version of Sonic & Knuckles because there are way better options out there to get more out of this experience.
Well anyway, that's all there is to say. Hey!
G-Dog.
Didn't you forget something? Like what? One word. Lock on technology. That's more than one. Who gives a shit? We want to see everything this magnificent cartridge has to offer. Just do it! What an asshole. So yeah, we're far from done. Thanks to this unique cartridge we can stack other cartridges on top of it to get extra content. Kinda like DLC before that was a common thing. It's quite ingenious. This works with 3 games.
With every other game you only get this screen. By inserting Sonic 1 you get the same screen, but if you press A, B and C at the same time you get to play a game called Blue Sphere. Yes, it's the good old special stages. You can play as either Sonic, Tails or Knuckles. Personally, as much as I like them, I've had enough for now. It's been a Sonic marathon at my place lately. But you die-hard Blue Sphere geeks are in luck. Guess how many levels there are? Over 128 million. Have fun completing that. More interesting is combining the cartridge with Sonic 2. This gives you the incredibly titled Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Rolls right off your tongue. Now for a change, I wanted to record the Sonic Origins version, but Knuckles wasn't playable in the classic mode. As a side note, I recorded everything in February of 2023, so Sonic Origins Plus wasn't out yet. I had to use cheats to get him. Even then I was disappointed that the title screen wasn't the same as on the Mega Drive and the title cards weren't green. So for that reason you'll get a mix of Sonic Origins footage and some ancient recordings. I've read that sometime after my recordings the green title cards were brought back with a patch. Thank you. For the most part, Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is identical to the original Sonic 2, but there are some changes here and there. For starters, there's no 2-player or options menu and he doesn't have his name displayed in the special stages. Speaking of, the ring requirement is significantly lower than before. Plus you keep the rings you had when you touched the star post after returning from a special stage or if you died. Sonic turned into Super Sonic by simply jumping. Here you need to press A, B or C while jumping to become Super Knuckles. That's way better. Thanks to Knuckles' abilities you get to explore and sometimes you're even rewarded with newly added items. Despite all that, this version is way harder than with Sonic or Tails. There's only one reason for that: the whimsy jump. For most of the game it's not a big deal, but the final boss makes me sweat in panic because every jump could mean instant death. It's ridiculous how precise you have to be. This was not made for Knuckles, that much is obvious. Every time I get here I keep dying on loop, losing all hope in humanity and myself. This drags the experience down immensely, but other than that I still love that this even exists. Back when we rented this, I played Knuckles in Sonic 2 way more than Sonic and Knuckles. That just speaks volumes about how much I loved the second game back then and still do. The main selling point of lock-on technology is combining it with Sonic 3. This gives you Sonic 3 and Knuckles. What a great name. No wonder it has become a meme, the jokes write themselves and Knuckles. This is the big one. Not only does it add Knuckles to Sonic 3, but it combines that game with Sonic and Knuckles to give us one large-ass adventure. Pretty much how it was intended by the developers before McDonald's came along and ripped it in half. This also means you get to play as Tails or Sonic and Tails in the Sonic and Knuckles levels. I swear I've never said these names so often in my entire life. Tails doesn't get to play Doomsday, however. They didn't just slap the levels together, but there are some changes. You get 8 save files instead of 6, and your saves from Sonic 3 carry over. Some of the music is different too. The title screen, Knuckles theme, Invincibility and 1-Up all use the version from Sonic and Knuckles. For that reason alone, I almost always play the original Sonic 3 first, and then make the switch to Sonic 3 and Knuckles once I beat Big Arms. In Sonic Origins, the songs for Carnival Night, Ice Cap and Launch Base are completely different. Coincidentally, the tracks that Michael Jackson and Brad Buxer worked on. Instead we get tracks that were originally from the PC version. Those sounded awful but have been enhanced. None of them hold a candle to the old tracks. Carnival Night sounds like a joke. Like it's not in the same league as anything we've heard so far. Ice Cap is okay, not more, not less. At least it fits the setting. Launch Base is alright too, but still disappointing. Anyway, the Sonic 3 zones have been altered slightly. One noticeable example is the beginning of Hydro City Act 2, where the bumper has been replaced with a 1-Up. Quite the contrast. Launch Base as Sonic or Tails completely misses the Big Arms fight, which is a damn shame. Thankfully, this was fixed in Origins. Mushroom Hill adds a little cutscene at the beginning. Wait a minute, this is new. What's up with this flashing ring? Yeah, so this leads you to the Master Emerald. For every Chaos Emerald you collect, a grey Super Emerald appears. Stepping on them leads you to more special stages. The cool thing is that you can choose the order in which you want to approach them. This means, however, that you won't be able to turn into Super Sonic anymore. After getting all Super Emeralds, however, you're in for a treat. Sonic turns into the insanely overpowered Hyper Sonic. What the F is a Hyper Sonic, do you ask? A cute little god of destruction. Believe it or not, he's even faster than the Super version, can breathe on the water and has a new move called the Hyper Flash that destroys every single enemy on screen. Holy crap, this is awesome. Knuckles then of course turns into Hyper Knuckles. He's also faster, can't drown and has a gliding shockwave attack that also destroys every badnik on screen. Even Tails gets some love. He turns into Super Tails. In addition to the usual stuff, he brings some deadly friends. Don't mess with the killer flickies. They will rip you to shreds. Now before we finally wrap up this video, I think we should take a look at Knuckles' run through the Sonic 3 levels. I'm happy to report that his paths are usually completely different. Angel Island Act 1 is nearly the same up until the end where he has to break some rocks. Therefore Act 2 is new. It's way shorter, has no branching paths, and technically you don't need to use any of his abilities. Not bad, I'd say. Hydro City feels mostly the same, but of course he can reach areas Sonic can't. At one point he breaks through another wall, which leads to a different path where he needs to glide over a long set of spikes. Marble Garden Zone makes Knuckles' weak jump painfully obvious, as he is dependent on a rotating platform to reach the mini-boss. Not only that, he can't reach the red gem, so he has to take a detour. The earthquake part is a bit rougher because you need to open walls, jump at red gems, and so on. The Act 2 boss is new. It would have been weird had Tails suddenly appeared and carried the Echidna. This is a fun boss fight as long as you watch out for the spikes. Carnival Night Zone is a mystery to me. As Sonic, it's one of the longest stages ever. As Knuckles, each act only takes a few minutes to complete. I don't know why they changed it so drastically, but I'm fine with it. Still took me longer than I'd like to admit because I died at the mini-boss like 8 times and even got a game over. Embarrassing. Act 2 doesn't even have a boss. It goes straight to Ice Cap via teleporter. First it's the same except for the lack of snowboard action, but then he breaks a wall to undiscovered territory. I messed up instantly. The second half starts at the bottom of the cave, which we haven't seen before. At the end it gets familiar again. Finally, Launch Base starts the same as before, but he can't enter this building because, well, he bombed it himself. By climbing up you reach the mini-boss, which is twice as hard this time. Not unbeatable though. Again, Act 2 is completely different, which I think is great. Haven't seen those backgrounds before. It starts at the bottom and you work your way up. The first phase of the Robotnik fight is missing. I can live with that. Instead, the next 2 phases take place at a different setting. Big Arms has the regular boss music, which is a slight letdown. At the end, Egg Robo drops a bomb and Knuckles falls into Mushroom Hill Zone. And that concluded Knuckles' trip through the Sonic 3 levels. I enjoyed this way more than the second half, and it's amazing to see new stuff in zones I've ran through a million times already. Even when the route is the same, it's fun to explore and occasionally find new items or giant rings. I'm a treasure hunter at heart.
Let's wrap this up.
For real this time. You can't talk about Sonic and Knuckles without Sonic 3 or vice versa. Combined, they give us the biggest adventure in the series up to this point. I love that they added content like the Super Emeralds. Playing as different characters actually makes a difference due to unique movesets and varying paths, with the occasional unique boss encounter. It's a crying shame this wasn't released as one game on the Mega Drive back in the day. Lock-on technology is cool and all, but unless you had both games, you weren't going to get the full experience as intended by the developers. Looking at my ranking, I still keep them separate though, because I think the first half is way better than the second, and I actually prefer plain old Sonic 3 as opposed to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The second half drags a bit for me. Saving is the, excuse me, saving grace, because I usually don't feel like playing through the whole thing in one sitting. For this review I played Sonic 3 3 times, Sonic and Knuckles twice, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles 4 times. You can count how many times I had to play the special stages, by the way. Too often. Way too often.
It's safe to say that I got a tad sick of it at the end and I seriously need a break from this game, which is why I didn't bother to play Sonic Origins with the new updates. But that's normal when you play something that much in such a short time span.
Although I've been more critical than usual, it doesn't take away from the fact that Sonic and Knuckles, along with all the lock-on magic, is an amazing cartridge that serves as a time capsule to a special time in my life. There is so much replay value here, it's insane.
Today I wouldn't recommend tracking it down because it's quite pricey. That is, unless you want an authentic experience like me, which is why I finally bought them recently.
Sonic Origins is the way to go nowadays, and I hope they keep improving it to make old school players like myself happy. As of now, I'm not interested and would rather play the originals or the PS2 version, even if it's not in high resolution. Objectively speaking, it's probably the most ambitious project in the entire series and deserves all the love it gets.
Now that I own the original cartridges, I finally get to relive those memories from when my dad rented them from the local video store.
After this, I lost touch with this franchise for many years because we switched to PlayStation in '97. I wouldn't play a new Sonic game until I got Sonic and the Secret Rings on the Wii for Christmas in 2008. Since then, I've caught up with most games, but nothing ever came close to the original Mega Drive classics until Sonic Mania showed up.
Personal criticism and preferences aside, you should absolutely give these games a shot. Sonic & Knuckles by itself is a solid game, but only in combination with the amazing Sonic 3 does it reach its full potential. Together, they're everything a Sonic fan could ask for.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching the season finale of Season 3. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.